We are halfway through the year 2025, and horror has given us a mixed bag of treats. We've gotten films that have been bangers, and we've got some movies that have been glorified mid, and we've also gotten some trash for sure. Now, as an overall collection of horror movies so far, has it been good? Has it been bad? Or has it been ugly? Well, come on and rock with your boy Tech. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and we'll do a breakdown of 2025 horror so far, and we'll compare it to how it was last year around this time, and we'll talk about some of the more anticipated films that are coming later this year. So without further ado, let's get it. Alright, spooky brothers and sisters. So horror started off this year with the movie Wolfman, which is a reboot of the Wolfman that we all know and love. This movie released in January, and we all know what is said about January horror movies, and I personally can't recall a time where horror was actually good in January. I can't really think of a single horror movie in January that happened to be good. Like, I mean, even when they brought Scream back like a few years ago, you know, with Scream 5, that was still kind of mid too. Like, I haven't like seriously, like there hasn't just been a great or even just good horror movie that has come out in January, and the Wolfman is no exception. Some of the things that it does well with atmosphere. It is kind of nice with the foggy atmosphere of being in the forest, and the movie has a pretty decent score. But outside of that, everything else is pretty flat. Like, the characters that we get are flat. The story for the characters is flat. And basically everything else. So it's just like, this movie is not anything to write home about whatsoever. And even when I watched it, I got bored really fast, and you know, that part is just really unfortunate, but that's just kind of how we rocking so far. So that's the movie that we kicked the year off with, and then not too far after that, then we got movies like Companion. And Companion so far is my favorite of the year. Companion to me is a really nice play on using artificial intelligence, or you know, robotics and things of that nature, and incorporating that into a, you know, horror movie. This movie is definitely a horror comedy, so there's a lot of funny moments. Sophie Thatcher is great as Iris. She's definitely one of my favorite actresses over the past few years, so she was good. Jack Quaid was a good, like, funny douche type of dude. He was good. Like, overall, like, that movie is just really charming. It's really fun. I feel like I can throw it on pretty much anytime and really have a good time watching it. So for me, this is like pretty much like one of the best of the year easily so far. And then you also get a bunch of other horror comedies. So like, this isn't the only one by any stretch. You get movies like The Monkey. And The Monkey, I also felt, you know, it was funny. Don't get me wrong. Now, if we're talking about the comedic aspect of The Monkey, that's one part that I'm not really going to comment on in a negative light ever, because that is some funny stuff. Every time they cut to like a funeral scene because people are just dying left and right, it is hilarious. So a lot of those elements are good, but once again, storyline kind of flat. These characters, we don't particularly care about them really at all. I mean, we deal with these twin brothers the entire movie pretty much, and you know, watching their evolution as they, you know, from childhood in like the first half of the movie, and then their adulthood in the second half. And it really doesn't make a difference whether it's the child actors or the adult actors. It's still kind of you know what I'm saying? Kind of the same thing for Hard Eyes. I think Hard Eyes is pretty funny as well. So like, a lot of these movies that came out that were horror comedies this year actually really executed pretty well on that comedic aspect, but so many of them forgot that, oh wait, dang, you're actually still a horror movie too. Like, I mean, you know, Hard Eyes is a slasher. Yeah, obviously it did maintain some of the horror elements in that aspect, but it's just so many other things that it kind of suffers from in a way. It's similar with The Monkey, that it's just like, if you elevate those elements of the movie and make them more intriguing, so give us better characters, and it's not even necessarily about the actors, it's literally just like what the characters are written to do in the script, and like how much we really care about them. I mean, I think in terms of an overall story and the technicality of a movie, I think Hard Eyes is better than The Monkey, but still, it's just like, there's so many little things that is missing that it could have been on the same level as Companion, but it just doesn't. And just a smidge later in the year, rolling into about April, we get Sinners. And Sinners is one of the movies that has taken storm of all of social media, and pretty much everybody's enjoying this movie. There's literally nothing that I can personally say that this movie does badly. I think it is very well rounded, from Michael B. Jordan's acting to Ryan Coogler's direction and the cinematography, the shots. so much artistic and creative style when it comes to this movie. And then, like I said, back to Michael B. Jordan. Like I said, I feel like this is my favorite and probably his best performance of pretty much anything that I've seen him in. But yeah, just so many of the other actors in it alongside Michael B. Jordan were good. So Miles Catton was good. Jack O'Connell as Remick was good. The Asian couple, the Chow couple, those actors were perfectly fine and they fit the movie very well. Delroy Lindos, Haley Steinfeld, like all of them played their roles so well. It is a movie that involves vampires, but I don't know how much of a vampire movie this movie is, if that makes sense. It includes the vampires, but the vampires are not the central focus or the point of the story at all. There's a lot of foreshadowing and there's a lot of history and things that you learn as far as, you know, Black history and what it looked like around that time in that setting, and how in culture and how people came together, and people amongst other races as well, and how like music also bonds them all together, and potentially, you know, with all that bonding and dancing and all that good stuff, and how doing that in the night and how that leads to sin and all this good stuff. There's so many different little elements that make this movie really, like I said, just solid all around. Like no weaknesses whatsoever, but it does have its strengths. You know, is this my favorite horror movie of the year? No, it's not, because I mean, even though I enjoy this movie a whole lot, this movie doesn't have a ton of rewatch value in my opinion. It just, I don't know. It's kind of like one of those ones that you watch once every blue moon, and then it probably reminds you of why it's still so good, but still not like one of, you know, those ones that you're just gonna throw on all the time. Like, it's not a popcorn flick by any stretch of the imagination. And then comes my second favorite of the year, which is actually, the more I think about it, a very close second favorite of the year, which is Final Destination Bloodlines. I don't know what they had cooking in this studio, but hey, they were definitely on to something. This movie is just so fun. I love everything about it. In my review of the Final Destination franchise and ranking all of those films, I talked about how this is one of the best premonition scenes. The only other two that are close to it in the franchise is Final Destination 5 with the whole bridge thing, and then Final Destination 2 with the highway. This thing right here, I don't know, just everything about it, I just love it. I love the vibe, I love the atmosphere, I love how even within 5 minutes there's already a character that you hate, and it's that little boy with the penny, and it's just like so much that is really enjoyable about this movie. Characters are hilarious as well. It just, I mean, you really can't go wrong. You just, like, this is the definition of a popcorn film, whereas, you know, Sinners isn't. Sinners technically is a better movie than this, but if you're talking about fun and something that I want to throw on all the time, that type of movie, then yeah, you really can't beat this, not one bit. If you're a fan of the Final Destination franchise, I really don't see how in any way, shape, or form you're not gonna like it, even despite some of the tone differences. You know, in the beginning, the first couple movies, the tone was a little more serious, and then, you know, as the franchise goes on, you see it becomes a little more lighthearted and animated and funny than it is more quote unquote serious, if that makes sense. But regardless of that, that doesn't bother me not one bit, and like I said, it's still one of the best horror movies that have come out this year. And then there's still another slasher like Clown in the Cornfield. I thought that movie was actually relatively enjoyable. Yeah, it's not a high budget movie or anything of that nature, but it's just enjoyable. It's funny. You know, everybody can always go for a good slasher, so you really can't go wrong in that aspect. It's also one of those movies that is pretty well rounded, but it's not like a high level, I'm about to go put this up for an Emmy or, you know, something like that. You know, it's not that caliber of a movie in terms of that popcorn campy, I just want to have fun type of movie. And it fulfills and checks pretty much all of those boxes in my opinion. And then there's still some movies that I haven't even seen in this beginning half of the year, like Bring Her Back. And I know that a lot of people really love that movie, and it's from the same producers that created Talk to Me. So I know that there was a lot of anticipation for that movie as well. So I definitely plan on seeing that movie. I really look forward to it, but y'all know how it is. I mean, God, you can't pay to see every dadgum movie. You just can't. So in my opinion, so far with horror in 2025 leading up to this point in June, it's been pretty solid. We've had, like, some of the movies have been funny, some of them been more of a serious tone, but yeah, as a whole, I have nothing really seriously to complain about in terms of 2025 horror movies. I do look forward to more serious horror movies, like, and not necessarily serious as in like the whole movie has to be in serious in tone, but like I want to be petrified. I want to be scared, terrified, where it's just like, oh my God, like this was a really good movie. You know, we're all to some degree immune to a bunch of these scares that a lot of these horror movies come out with, but there's still a lot of creativity that's left. You can still twist some of the things that we've seen before, you know, give it a little, put a little something on it, you know, so then it's like, oh, okay, you know, at least this feels a little fresh. I see what they were trying to do here. I enjoy that. You know, it's really not that hard. So we just need a little bit more of those and things will work out. And speaking of that, that leads me to some of the upcoming horror movies for the latter part of the year that I'm looking forward to. And some of those movies are like The Conjuring, The Last Rites. I'm a huge fan of the Conjuring universe. So with this being the final film of the franchise, it's gonna be highly anticipated, and I hope that they really knock it out of the park. Like for me, I love The Conjuring 1. Like that is like I can't tell you how many times I rewatched that the year that it came out in 2013. Then The Conjuring 2, I didn't like it when I first watched it, but every single watch after that, I've absolutely loved it, and it's kind of like a 1A 1B with the original Conjuring. With the Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It, I wasn't the biggest fan of that. I still think it's a good movie, but I just don't think it's up to the standard of the first two. And so, yeah. And then all the Annabelle spin-offs and stuff like that. 2 of the 3 Annabelles I think is good. Curse of La Llorona isn't good. So the first Nun was kind of and then the second one, no, not really. All that leaves at this point is The Conjuring, The Last Rites. And so I just really hope that they really crush this movie, and I definitely look forward to it. There's a movie like Weapons that's coming out, and Weapons trailer, at least from what everybody is saying, like I've already mentioned before in previous videos, I don't watch trailers, so any information that I ever find out about the movie, I may read a little bit of a description or, you know, something to that effect, but I'm never gonna just sit there and watch a trailer just because they just show way too much of the movie, and I actually want to be surprised at what I'm watching on screen and not be like, oh dang, I already saw that scene. So Weapons is certainly a movie that I'm looking forward to. The movie Him, I think that's gonna be potentially another good fun one, and even another movie that I'm not necessarily looking forward to, but just more so hopeful that it's going to be better than the original, which is The Black Phone 2. And I mean, because the original Black Phone I felt like was an interesting concept, cinematography wise and visuals. It looked good, it was shot well. Ethan Hawke was good as an antagonist, but just something about that movie was missing, and I feel like with the ghost, seeing the ghost kids talk on the phone and stuff like that, I feel like that kind of cheapened some of the impact of the movie. So I hope with this second one that they go in a slightly different direction and hopefully capitalize on a lot of the things that they happened to do well in the first one and raise the floor for the things that they didn't do as well. You know, in a way, it kind of reminds me of Long Legs, and I recently rewatched Long Legs just to make sure I wasn't tripping. And yeah, they both The Black Phone and Long Legs kind of have a lot of similarities in they're just undercooked. Like, I mean, like you see what they're trying to do, is just they just didn't deliver. That's the best way I can put it. And so yeah, so yeah, I definitely look forward to some of these other horror movies that are coming out in the latter part of this year. And when we compare it to some of the stuff that we got in 2024, where 2024 we had bangers left and right, even just in the first half of the year, you had Late Night with the Devil, The First Omen, Abigail, Immaculate. I think Strange Darling was in the first half of the year, and there's so many other movies, and that doesn't even include some of the bangers like Smile 2 and some of these other movies that came out in the second half of the year. So yeah, so 2025 in comparison to last year, you still have a good bit amount of work to do if you want to be anywhere on the level of that. But outside of that, I'm not mad at 2025 horror. It's different from last year. Like I said, it's a lot of horror comedies and things of that nature. So we'll see what the second half of the year brings, but that is pretty much it, Spooky Gang. Y'all comment down below what you think of 2025 horror so far, and what are some of your favorite horror movies from the year thus far, and some of your most anticipated horror movies that are coming up in the latter part of the year. Y'all comment those down below. For all of my new watchers, like I said, y'all subscribe to the channel, like the video, because we are on the road to 10K subs and the sub count keeps driving up and I couldn't have any more appreciation for it. Like I said, smash that subscribe button. Until next time, Spooky Gang, y'all already know how we rocking. Love y'all, and y'all stay blessed, and y'all stay spooky.